him, and we're anxious to hear from him directly. All right, so I think it's very positive, and I'm sorry that others see it as being negative.
Well, we Jamaican, we think it's a great opportunity for us to hear Mr. Farrakhan speak about the black nation, because we here in Jamaica, we lack a lot of experience about black nation, because we only have Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and then further on in our education, they lock those things away. We only know about the European world books. We ain't know nothing about no black history books. So it's very nice to be here for Mr. Farrakhan, and I wish him the best. And all of you guys do come here. I hope you all enjoy yourself.
You, Jamaica, Minister Farrakhan, your visit has sparked extreme discussion in this country, and I think that it is very good for the country to have discussions of this sort. This afternoon, we're going to have a very short press conference. I will introduce the minister, which you have met him. I would like to say that I have been asked that when the question and answer period comes, that you indicate your request. I will identify you. You state your name and your media house, and you ask your questions. We're trying to keep this very tight. We hope we will not go beyond an hour, and so that you'll be able to make your deadline. I'd like to, at this point, introduce the other persons here sitting to my far left from 21st century. The persons who have put this program together, Junior Lincoln and Mrs. Lloyd Grant, Reverend Shavers, and my name is Alun Dombe Samba. In the audience, we have some very special people. I would like to particularly name Mrs. Loy Fletcher Gale for her role in having this lovely week come together, and to introduce you to Ruth Janke, who represents an organization which is one of the recipients of the proceeds. Ruth is with the National Initiative for Street Children. And now, it's my very great pleasure, sir, to ask you to address us.
Thank you. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. My dear sister and members of the press, it is a great honor and privilege for me to be here with you in Jamaica. I am especially pleased to have been invited by those who invited us for the cause of looking after those who are poor and disadvantaged. And I personally want to thank those members of the business community who supported this effort. And I do hope that those who withdrew their support because of their perception of Louis Farrakhan will not punish the poor and the needy because of a misconception or misperception of Louis Farrakhan. I'm honored to be here for you to listen to what I have to say and to question me and to make your own judgment, not based on what the American media says of me, but what you hear, what you know of your brother. My father is a Jamaican. My mother is a Kittitian. So I feel that I have come home to the place that nurtured my father, that he might, through his life journey, give life to me. And so I would hope that you would not treat me as a stranger, one who is not familiar with the culture and the magnificent beauty of the people of the Caribbean, but I hope you will treat me as a son and a brother that grew up in America, but whose passion not only is for the rise of black people in the United States, but my passion is for the rise of our people in the Caribbean, in Central and South America, in Africa and in the Isles of the Pacific. That does not mean that we do not wish to see the rise of all those who are oppressed on the planet. But since I am from the black family, then I speak specifically and particularly to black people. However, my heart is for the oppressed wherever they may be. And with that in mind, my thanks to Ms. Lois Grant, my thanks to all of you for the honor that you have paid me by your presence. And now, with your permission, I would be glad to entertain your questions.
From the Sunday Gleaner,
Erica Virtue, Sunday Gleaner. Mr. Farrakhan, what is the message to men in a country where for the last 10 years the statistics showing persons graduating from tertiary institutions show 70% in the favor of women?
Jamaica, like the United States, has a democratic form of government. The right to vote presupposes an enlightened electorate. When we have gross illiteracy among the masses of the people, that illiteracy is an enemy to democracy. For when we are illiterate or ignorant, we know not our own self-interest because we lack self-knowledge and self-determination. So if we are truly desirous of being a democracy, then education must be at the forefront of whatever we put before the people. There should be no Jamaican that cannot read and cannot write. And that is the problem in the United States, among our people, in the Caribbean, in Africa. So the Bible teaches, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. So what government and the private sector and all of those who have been blessed with learning must do is to take the unlearned as our special project. Jesus again said, the seeing are responsible for the blind. And those of us who have been blessed with education are responsible to help educate the masses of our people. And through that education, power comes to the people and democracy becomes not a word, but a reality. Thank you.
Next question.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome to Jamaica.
Thank you.
Barbara Blake Hannah from the Herald. Why are your messages always aimed at men? Have you no message for the Jamaican woman?
Of course. We aimed our message, my dear sister, at men in the United States, particularly for the Million Man March, because the black male is really an endangered species. The black male is the one who is involved in the drive-by shootings, the fratricidal gang conflict, the lack of presence in the home in support of the children that we produce. And since the Bible says that God made man and gave man responsibility for women and children, if the man falls down on his job, this puts a tremendous burden on the female. And most of our women have had to be both male and female, mother and father, friend and teacher to the children, while we as men have been on the level of the lower animals, acting like we are in heat to produce a child without the knowledge or even the will to nurture what we have produced. So the message on Father's Day will be toward the men, but there is a message for women. Women are the cornerstone of family and therefore the cornerstone of the society. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that where there are no decent women, there are no decent men, for the woman is the mother of civilization. When you teach a man, you teach an individual. When you teach a woman, you teach an entire family and an entire nation. So it's not quite bad that 70% of those coming out of school are women, because if the women are bright, if the women are highly learned, then that which comes from their womb will reflect the brilliance of their mothers. And so we have a message for the man, a message for the woman, a message for government, a message for the private sector. When God speaks to us, he doesn't speak to some. He speaks to all. And whenever a prophet or messenger of God has delivered a message, in it there's something for the male, the female, the child, the ruler, the ruled, the poor, the downtrodden, the oppressed, and all members of the society. So I would hope, by the grace of God, that after you hear what we have to say over the next few days, you will see that in it is a message for all that deals with the uplift of all. Thank you very much for your question. Now, I don't want you to hold back with me, because if there are things that you've heard about me that are negative, and you would like to ask about those things, it will not be embarrassing for you to do so. And so I would appreciate hearing some of those, negative things that were said about me when I wasn't here. So I probably could help to deal with those things. And I want to say this, I don't feel badly about anybody who has said negative things or written negative things about me, because you write what you really believe. And as long as you are honest in your assessment of me, from your knowledge of me, I respect that. But now that I am with you and I am your brother, then I want you to put before me the things that you feel your readers need to know that they've been hearing that have been so ugly or negative.
Observer?
Yes.
I'm a Jamaica observer. What's in your assumption made you think, what do you assume could have caused the business spaces to have withdrawn support?
Well, in the United States, where I reside and where I've done most of my work, we have come up under great oppression. Whenever a black person rises to prominence in the United States and influence, and is not directed, controlled by the dominant society, it evokes fear. And when the members of the dominant society become fearful because they don't know how this person will use their growing influence, then they say all manner of things about that person, so that the masses of the people will think evil of that person and not hear what that person has to say. Marcus Garvey came to us from this great island nation. Marcus Garvey was loved by millions of black people in America, but he was feared by the government. And so the newspaper spoke of Marcus Garvey as an evil force. And finally, they lied on him, brought him into court on trumped-up charges, and deported him because he was not a citizen of the United States. And if you study our history in America, every black leader who has risen, who has pointed out the evil that others have done to us and what we do to each other, that person was maligned by those who fear free, bold, courageous black men. I would assume that in this society, those who have power, those who have wealth, feared what Farrakhan might say that might disrupt the status quo. And so out of that fear, they urged those over whom they may have some measure of control to pull back their support. And of course, after tomorrow and the next few days, when the island hears what Brother Farrakhan has to say, then those in those positions of power may change their minds and more strongly support the needs of the mustard seed community and all those other wonderful charities that need their support.
From the Jamaica Herald. Minister Farrakhan, we have been inundated with arguments that you do not believe that white people were created by God but by a scientist named Yakub or something like that. What is the true picture?
All of us are creatures of God. There is none that exist who are not from God, but oftentimes God works through that which he has created. The Bible says all good and perfect gifts come from God. Well, when you see someone invent something, it came through that individual, but who gets the praise, the credit? We give it all to God. White people, according to genetics, according to biology, according to archaeology, and according to anthropology, are not an ancient people. When we look for the origin of man, we have not looked to Europe. The archaeologists and the anthropologists have gone to Africa. And they all agree now, I'm talking about the scientific community, that the black woman is the origin of all human life on this earth. This didn't come from Louis Farrakhan. This came from white scholars and scientists who are bearing witness to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. And if all human life comes from the black woman, and the black woman does not have a sperm to produce herself, then there was a man involved somewhere. And so if we are the root of the human family, it doesn't make us superior, but it does say that we are the root of all human existence. The Bible and the Holy Quran bear witness to this truth. The Bible says it like this: from one blood came all nations. From one blood. Well, blood is the life fluid of a living organism. So if all nations, meaning people, came from one blood, that's just not blood. It's the blood of some human being that has form. And they took their form from that original form. And that's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that the black man and woman are the original people of this earth. And that is not racism, that is truth. The Holy Quran says that Allah created Adam from black mud, fashioned into shape. Well now, black mud, if that is the essence of the physical body of Adam, then Adam had to have been a black human being, and he's the father of all mankind. So what is the problem? Why does this become a problem? It becomes a problem because white supremacy has tried to make us believe that our blackness is something of a divine curse. And so many black people, I know in Africa and I know in America, I don't know about Jamaica, but many black people have tried desperately using all kinds of skin lightness and whiteness to get away from their own blackness. And it's time to stop this. You should be proud of who you are and what you are, and proud of the God who made you or created you, the origin of all human life. And the Bible says to others, honor your mother and father, that your days may be long. Well, it's time that the world pays honor to black mom and black dad. And it's time for black dad on Father's Day to rise up and take your proper and rightful place. Thank you for the question.
Yes. Question from the Sunday.
Yes, Minister Farrakhan, you asked us to be honest with you about those things that are embarrassing. Are you a troublemaker, Minister Farrakhan?
Well, I don't want to just say yes. No, I just don't want to say yes. But troublemaker for who? You see, if you have a slave plantation and all the slaves are happy being slaves, there's no trouble. But when one of the slaves decides that freedom is a divine right that all the slaves should have, and he begins to speak to the other slaves about the glory of being free, the slave master will call that slave a troublemaker. Well, it's true. Moses was a troublemaker for Pharaoh. Daniel was a troublemaker for Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. Jesus was a troublemaker for Rome. And so if I am a troublemaker in America, I'm not making trouble for black people. I'm making trouble because I'm disturbing the slave mentality of our people that makes us dependent on others to do for us what we could unite and do for ourselves. I hope that I won't get anybody in any trouble while I'm here, and I hope I won't get in any trouble, and I'm certainly not here to stir up any trouble, but to keep trouble from the door of a troubled people. Thank you.
Yes, can I ask, therefore, give you an opportunity to state your position on the Jewish people? Are you a racist? Are you anti-Jews?
Thank you so much for your question. To be a racist means to seek advantage for your people at the expense of others by means that are less than fair and just. I am not that. I seek advantage for black people because we are disadvantaged. I seek freedom, justice, and equality for black people because we do not enjoy these essentials of life. I seek money, good homes, and friendships in all walks of life for our people because we don't have sufficient money. We certainly don't have good homes, nor do we have friendships in all walks of life. And because I seek this, not to rob any other human being of their inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I deny categorically and in the strongest terms that I am a racist. I am not a person that hates people because of their color, their ethnicity, or their faith tradition. I do not hate Jewish people. I admire Jews for the way they have survived the oppression of peoples of the world and are some of the most brilliant people in the world. That's something to admire. That's something to take as an example to draw from. But what I do not admire is exploitation, tyranny, and injustice, no matter who does it. If it is a Jewish person doing it, I feel that I have the right to condemn that act and that person, but I should not be called anti-Semitic. If a black person does it, and I point it out and condemn both the act and the person, I should not be called anti-black because I point out exploitation carried on by blacks against blacks if there are tyrants in government that are black. And I point that out. I'm not anti-black. I'm anti-tyranny. I'm anti-oppression. I'm anti-exploitation. I'm anti-injustice, no matter who does it. And the sad fact is that if I criticize some members of the Jewish community, then I am labeled as anti-Semitic. And I think that is unfair to me because I don't criticize out of hatred, but I criticize out of a desire to see wrong corrected and injustice made right. Thank you.
No? Any other questions? Yes, one more?
Yes. Last question, I think. Minister Farrakhan. Okay. Is your visit to Jamaica an extension of the Million Man March?
By all means, yes. The Million Man March was a miracle, not ordered by Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan cannot take the credit for organizing it. He cannot even take the credit for calling it. It was an inspiration, I believe, from God. And God answered his own inspiration by making the day historic, in that it was the largest gathering of people on that mall in the history of the United States of America. And from the most troubled element in American society, the black male, there was a scene of love and peace that has never been seen even at some of the most religious pilgrimages made by persons in the name of God. And there was not one incident of violence. Although the government was prepared for that, there was not that. In Jamaican society, we have black men who are fathers but unemployed. Without a job, the male cannot be provider, and without the wherewithal, he cannot be a protector of his home. And so what you have is drugs, what you have is guns, what we have is increased violence, what we have is child abuse, what we have is incest, and what we have is domestic violence, pervasive in the society. In the Million Man March, we addressed these issues, and black men that day declared that they would do everything in their power to be the type of man that God created them to be. That kind of message would be good for the black men of Jamaica, particularly on Father's Day. But as my sister pointed out, it must not just be a message for men, because women have a very powerful role in helping us to be the men that we hope to be. I'm not the man that I am. I could never be the man that I am without two very special women in my life. My beautiful black mother from St. Kitts and my beautiful black wife. Without these two women and their hands on me to make me into what I am today, I couldn't be this type of man. So the woman has a great role in cultivating that deep spiritual power that is within every black male, in fact, every human being, but I'm speaking specifically of the black male. And we can never be who we are without that cultivating hand of the female. But most of our women do not know how to cultivate the divine essence in their husbands, in their male children. We need to talk about this because we can't do it by ourselves. You can't do it by yourself. It's going to take all of us in the society working together to make us into the image and likeness of God as God intended. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, and welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions and your patience.
Just before you go, I have a book which Professor Rex Nettleford would like to be presented to Minister Farrakhan. It's called Inward Stretch, Outward Reach, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Lloyd Grant to present it to you, sir, on Professor Nettleford's behalf.
How is he? Good.
And would like to present it to you on behalf of the company.
Turn it around.
Thank you.
Turn around.
Please give Professor Nettleford my love, and I hope to see him before I leave.
Unfortunately, he has to go off to Copenhagen.
Ah,
So he'll not be here.
okay, thank you. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen of the press, with me is the Reverend Benjamin Chavis, who is one of the great reasons for the success of the Million Man March. He was the national director of that march and was responsible for, in a large part, its success and the organization of over 400 local organizing committees in 400 cities in the United States. And I'm very, very happy that he decided to leave his busy schedule to join his brother here on the island of Jamaica. And again, he is a Christian minister, and here we have Christian and Muslim working together for the uplift of our people, and that is what we wish to promote on the island of Jamaica as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Well, what do you think about Minister Farrakhan speaking in Jamaica on Father's Day? I'm particularly gratified that he is